Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar organized by ValuEndow Consulting on the topic Importance of Human Values During COVID Era. Warm greetings from India. We are happy to see participants joining us from across the world, friends from Philippines, Bangladesh, Indonesia, UAE, Iran, US, and from India. Hope you are all safe and sound. COVID-19 threatens to become one of the most difficult tests faced by humanity in modern history. And as the pandemic has spread, it has taken close to almost like 400,000 lives by now. It has immensely increased the anxiety, and also you can also see the political drama, overwhelmed health systems, and has triggered potentially lasting geopolitical change. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, says that the global economy now faces its worst downturn since the Great Depression. And the Oxfam International has warned that 50 crore people, that is half a billion people, could be pushed into poverty as a result of the unfolding crisis. Job losses, financial crisis, fear of infection, anxiety, and helplessness have started a major global mental health crisis. Maybe the pandemic will be brought under control in some time in future, but the stress, anxiety, and depression will continue to affect people and communities. The situation is such that it might trigger thoughts and emotions that may make us say things or act in a manner which we might not do under normal circumstances. We have seen examples after examples in this crisis period where our behaviors worsened. And that is why it is very important to anchor on our basic value system. And that is what the core topic that we'll be addressing today. Value system, compare this with a lighthouse showing us direction in a turbulent sea. Hi, my name is Manas Das, and I'll be your moderator in today's webinar. I, along with my team across India from ValuEndow, welcome you all to this very important topic. Let me also introduce ValuEndow Consulting. Our firm ValuEndow is inspired by the idea of looking at organizations as living beings. And we bring in solutions which is closely connected to culture, context, and values. Our mission is to be with you in partnering change with people, process, systems, and strategy. Our range of services include management consulting, leadership development, systems audit, and workplace well-being. To know more, you can also visit our website, ValuEndow.com. In this series, we have done many webinars. We have conducted a series of webinars, and there are many webinars coming in future as well, with resilience building, with scenario planning and all. I'm excited to be hosting this session today. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Dimpy Mahanta. A little bit about Dr. Dimpy. Dr. Dimpy is a Ph.D. in Occupational Stress and Quality of Life. She is a champion in the field of promoting psychological well-being and managing stress. Her research papers have been widely published, and she has presented her work both nationally and internationally, and has been highly applauded. She is a life member of European Academy of Occupational Health Psychology, EAOHP, based in Nottingham, and also Indian Academy of Health Psychology, IAHP. She is an author, singer, news reader from All India Radio, Prasar Bharati, Delhi, and also an avid traveler. I feel proud to share with you that Dr. Mahanta has been selected to be the part and parcel of prestigious IAHP COVID-19 National Task Force and has been providing counseling and psychological assistance to public during this present crisis. We are happy and enthused to have Dr. Dimpy Mahanta with us as a speaker. A little bit of disclaimer that this webinar is to share information on well-being practices and that can create self-awareness and personal growth. In no way this is a replacement of one-to-one therapy. If you feel you are under any kind of duress, please seek immediate professional help. Now, before I invite our esteemed speaker, Dr. Dimpy, I have few housekeeping items to cover. To get you familiarized, you can see that on the right-hand side, you have your chat window where you can put your questions. Please feel free to put your question there. In between, we'll be coming up with those answers, stinging answers from our speaker. And don't worry if you don't cover all the questions. We'll be in touch to address all those questions. We also have added some offers for counseling services, which will come at the end of our webinar today. And at last, we would like to encourage you participate in our future webinars and share in your social networks on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. So without any further ado, I'd request Dr. Dimpy Mahanta to join us in the webinar. There is a little bit of technical issue, possibly will not be able to see Dr. Dimpy, but at the same time, we'll have live interaction as far as possible. Over to you, Dr. Dimpy.
A very good afternoon to all the viewers of today's webinar. Thank you so much, Mr. Manas Das, for such a wonderful introduction. And it is very, very heartwarming, in fact, to know that we have so many participants and in fact, international participants, scholars and academics as well, who have joined in today's webinar on importance of human values during COVID-19 era. Dear viewers, never once in the history of mankind had the entire human race felt so helpless as during this COVID-19 era, and that too under the threat of a virus of the size of a few microns in diameter. And during this crisis period, due to the prevailing pandemic, we have witnessed how insensitively and badly some people have behaved across the spectrum, and we have witnessed extreme form of intolerance. And that's what makes today's topic so very relevant in the present scenario. I'm reminded today of a quote by Swami Vivekananda, who says that we need that education. We need that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is improved, intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. And here, Swamiji was mentioning about nothing but value education only. So when I talk about values, what are values? Values are nothing but a shorthand way of describing our individual and collective motivations and what is in French, values are termed as valeur, which means excellence. And quite often, our behavior or are determined by the values that we carry within us. Now, values are the energetic drivers of our aspirations and intentions. As you can see from the slides, the definition of human values, value is a belief. It is a mission or a philosophy that is meaningful. Quite often we are consciously, aware of them, and many a times we are not even aware of them consciously. And every individual has a core set of personal values, which in turn determine their character strength and their personality. And values can range from commonplace, such as the belief in hard work and punctuality, to the more psychological, such as self-reliance, concern for others, and harmony of purpose. Now, quite often, my students and fellow academics, whenever we discuss, we talk about the difference between what are the values and how is it different from virtues. And many a times, values and virtues are, are considered synonymous and they're used interchangeably. But there is a difference between the two. When we talk about virtues, virtues, in other words, are nothing but values in action. So virtues are the values that are held in high regard by a specific culture, religion, or spiritual philosophy. And mainly, values and virtues are very important for our existence, not just during COVID-19 era, but otherwise also in our lives, because they create harmony in our lives. They create homeostasis. The balance, the well-being of us is determined to a great extent by the values that that are there within us. Now, values, where are they obtained from? This is a very important question, and and in fact, we all are aware that most of us are aware that values are obtained in many different ways, and the primary and the most important institution from where we derive values is nothing but the family. And as we say, that's the reason why probably we say that children are often the reflection of the parents. The most important place for building values is the person's family, because that's where the child learns what is right and what is wrong before there is any other influences. So the child often learns about what do you call it, as social expectations. You talk about roles, you talk about belief system, and all are formulated during his childhood years, and the family plays a very important role as an institution. And later on, as a child starts school helps them to shape the values. And when the child goes to the school, there are codes of conduct that the child has to follow. That's where the formal education plays a very important role in obtaining values. Then there is religion that the family introduces to a child, that plays a role in teaching the right and the wrong behaviors. We may be practicing any faith, but all the religions of the world, they teach us certain values which make us truly human in the truest sense of the term, or in other words, fully functioning individuals. Now, going to the significant periods of value formation. In fact, according to Maurice Massey, as you can see on the screen, he was a sociologist. He says that values are formed during 3 significant periods. The first is what we call as the imprint period, which is from birth to the age of 7 years. And as we all know, children's minds are quite impressionable. Whatever you teach them at the childhood, the first 5 to 7 years of their age are the real age where character formation, the personality develops. And because they are like tabula rasa, their minds are like tabula rasa, which is like empty slate. Whatever you write in them, in that slate, that gets imprinted in their minds, just like sponges, absorbing everything around us and accepting much of it as true, especially when it comes from their parents. The confusion and blind belief of this period can also lead to the early formation of trauma and other deep problems. So the critical thing here is to learn a sense of right and wrong, good and bad. So that is where I say that the first 5 to 7 years of a child's life is what Massey has called it as the imprint period, which determines quite a few values that are formulated. The second phase is what is called as the modeling phase. That is from the age of 8 to 13 years, when the child, is more influenced by the teachers in the junior school. Quite often, we all remember, and our junior school teachers who were our favorites, and they were, in fact, they casted much more influence on our lives as compared to our parents also during that time. So for us, during the time, the junior school teachers seemed so knowledgeable, maybe even more so than our parents. So that is the period which we call as the modeling period, where the child tries to model the behavior of the parents, the behavior of the seniors, the behavior of their elders, the behavior of the junior school teachers. So that again is one of the very critical period, according to Massey, for value formation. As we go ahead, the third is the socialization period, which is from 13 years to 21 years. And here, children are very by their peers, our friends, the same, age group people with whom we can relate to. They play a very important role in our value formation. So other influences can be the media, it can be social. Nowadays, the social media influences so much. And so especially those parts which seem to resonate with the values of our peer groups, we tend to identify with them more. And that's how, during this period from 13 to 21 years, that is the period which we call the socialization period, where the influence of peer group is to a great extent. That is why it's said that you need to keep good company. Why is it said so? Because your peers have a great influence in your values, in your life. Going ahead, now we are talking about crisis. As human beings, we have been so busy in the rat race, multitasking, breaking deadlines, reaching goals, and crossing milestones, that rarely did we have time to stop, think, and ponder whether we are doing the right things. I hope you agree with me, Manas, on this, that, we have always been so very busy, so very, running after one goal, after completing the deadlines, that rarely did we ever get time actually to ponder, to think, and to sit as to, and question why. This is especially the case when we are in our comfort zone, or perhaps think that we are eternal. In fact, the real reflection occurs when we are in crisis, isn't it? So that is when, in a crisis situation, we actually, we click on the pause button, we think, we ponder, and try to reflect, rewind, and refresh. And this is why crisis, whenever there is a crisis, it can happen mainly in many levels. It can occur at an individual level, it can occur at organizational level, societal level, and global level. Now, as far as the present crisis situation is concerned, because of COVID-19, it has affected us at all the four levels. Whether you talk about individual, yes, our personal lives have been affected. We have been affected in psychological consequences. We have seen the behavioral consequences, the physiological consequences. Organizational level, we have seen many students, we have seen that, now colleges are closed, and we are, going through this lockdown period. We are all holding inside our houses. So it has affected our organizational level as well. Then societal level, now we have seen how the society has been impacted to a great extent, whether you talk about the economy, political system, everything, and global level as well. So human values, basically, dear friends, they help us cope with the crisis and emerge out victorious. And that is why I feel that today's topic is so very important. And I thank the Manas for having come up with this particular webinar. Now, as I have already mentioned, that values are the moral standards of human behavior in the society, the essence of our personality, and affect us to make decisions, trust people, and arrange our time and energy in our social life. Now, human society may not significantly sustain without human values. In fact, yesterday, one of our senior professors, when he saw my invitation on Facebook for this particular webinar, Sir had written that it is not human values is not just important for in today's crisis situation, but otherwise also for the for the smooth running of the society. We require human values, and he is absolutely correct that human values are an integral part of our social system, because that gives us proper moral standard for the human behavior to act in the society. So the modern society, unfortunately, we are witnessing value crisis, and more so during this present times. No wonder we are experiencing crisis because of the pandemic which is there or prevailing as of today. But at the same time, we are witnessing another form of crisis, and that is nothing but what I call as value crisis or value erosion. Now, during the times of COVID-19, dear viewers, we are cultivating and mobilizing fears and anxieties that have eroded human values such as sensitivity, concern, and care, that is the seva bhav that we say, from our individual and social self. We have in fact witnessed, as I had mentioned a little while back, about people behaving so erratically We have seen so much of intolerance in the society that it often makes me wonder and question, what is it that we are, that where are we actually, I mean, the value system has degraded to such a great extent. And even during the pandemic crisis time, when people should have had sensitivity, yes, I won't generalize and say that everybody is facing this or is involved in value, erosion. But then, yes, we have seen certain segments of the society who are involved in extreme form of value degradation. That's where I think it is important to address this issue and create more and more awareness of this particular topic. Now, going
Dr.
ahead,
Dimpy, there are
yes,
few points that we have seen in the chat window coming up. If I can take, few
all right,
pointers to it. Uh, Mr. Nagendra
okay,
Prasad has actually asked about how do we distinguish human values from the other type of values. That is one. Jaideep Sarkar is asking about what are the ways of, according to you, to normalize and gain the human values, because you see the loss of human values here. Violina
okay,
Mahanta asking about what human value is without religion.
okay. Thank you so much, viewers, for the amazing questions and for your participation. And as far as Jaideep Sarkar is concerned, Jaideep, in the period of pandemic, human losing their values, what are the ways, according to you, to normalize and gain that values? Yes, Jaideep, I'll be coming to that issue a short while later. So after I, go ahead with the incidents of value crisis, I want to first portray the incidences which had led to value crisis, and which actually shows the immense amount of value crisis during COVID-19. Then I would go ahead with the ways to manage it and how to gain those values, or how to imbibe those values in the present generation, of the particular population. As far as Valina is concerned, Valina, hi. She is a student of mine. What human value is without religion? Yes, human value is, I would say, every religion, across the world, they talk about values. They talk about human values because, as I told you, human values, they provide moral compass to the society. And every religion, whether you talk about Islam, you talk about Hinduism, you talk about Judaism, you talk about any religion, every religion is based on certain human values and virtues. And I would say they are, intertwined. And so that's why I said, when I talked about socialization process, family is important, yes. Then the education system, as I mentioned, how teachers play an important role. Then I also mentioned about religion also. Why? Because every religious books, every religious scriptures talk about good human values and why they should be imbibed so that the society, runs in a smoother manner. So that is where I think there is no human value without religion. Religion and spirituality, though I say that they are different terminologies, yet, they are interchangeably used, and both play a very important role in human value formation. I hope I have answered you, Valina. And thank you so much, Padam Raj Joshi, sir, from Nepal. Thank you for your compliment for the session. Manas, okay, hope you remember we discussed the crisis at several levels. Okay, Tarun, hi. Other types of values, Prasad. Other human, when I talk about, I think, Nagendraji, you must be mentioning about, when you talk about other types of values, I think you're mentioning about the virtues. And I have already talked about the difference between values and virtues. And as I go ahead, probably things will be more clear. Hi, Tulika. Okay. A very good afternoon. Hello, Dr. Ashok Dua. So good to see that you are also one of the participants. Hi, Professor Rahman from Bangladesh, my colleague. Hi, everyone. In fact, okay, fine. Let's move on. I'll just come back to you again. Thank you, Manas, for this. Okay, now dear friends, now I would like to mention about the incidence of value crisis during COVID-19. I want to basically focus upon a few incidents which shows extreme form of value crisis during this particular period. You also will agree with me, I'm very sure about that. The first instance, I hope you can see the photographs. It shows the increase in the rise of prices, essential commodities, whether you talk about ration, you talk about grocery, you talk about vegetables and fruits. The shopkeepers tried to, take advantage of the pandemic situation, the crisis situation in the very beginning, when the lockdown was announced. And we see the escalating prices of our essential commodities. And it really affected the common public to a great extent. So this, I think, is a very, very big instance of value crisis in the society. The second one, as you can see, the newspaper report, which clearly says that stocks getting over fast, prices of masks have now doubled or tripled. This happened sometime again when the lockdown was announced. The PPE kits, supplies was scarce. Shrewd businessmen tried to hoard essential products. Government had mentioned that PPE products, and even for that matter, masks and sanitizers are also under essential commodities. And yet we saw that people were trying to engage in black marketeering, hoarding, and I think that this is again one of the extreme instances of value crisis in the society during this period. Let's go ahead. Dear friends, this is another instance which many of you will agree with me. That was the congregation, Tablighi Jamaat congregation. And I am basically a very straightforward person. So I do not hesitate to call a spade a spade. So I was really very hurt when I saw that educated, enlightened masses of our society also involved in prejudice, involved themselves in stigmatization, stereotyping, something which I don't think that we should have engaged in during this crisis period. As you can see, media also had played a very great role in this kind of I would say prejudice that had precipitated during that time. You can see Corona ki Jamaat. You can see that picture. You can see the people over there. In fact, yesterday I read an newspaper article in Times of India, where the Kanpur Medical College principal will term the Jamaatis as terrorists. So imagine the principal alleging that the Jamaatis are terrorists in this updated. There was a video where she was talking to the journalist, and the said person stated that instead of keeping such patients in isolation wards where they are using public money, they should be sent to solitary confinement. I do not expect, such kind of, usage of terminologies or such kind of, propagation of hatred, at least from our intelligentsias, at least from people who we call intellectuals. And in fact, later on, thankfully, the doctor issues apologies after hours, the controversy on the comments on the people who had attended the congregation. And Kanpur Medical College principal, she further issues apology, open apology, saying that committed a mistake and promises never to break her oath as a doctor. So, dear friends, you can see these are the instances these are the instances which are right in front of our eyes on our daily, day-to-day, lives as of today in this present pandemic. Going ahead, here you can see the picture of a gentleman who is no more now. He was Dr. Silo of Meghalaya. Dr. Silo, let me speak a little bit about Dr. Silo. Many of you may be aware, many of you may not be aware of him. Dr. Silo was a medical health practitioner. He worked in Meghalaya, and he had dedicated 4 decades of his life, 40 years of his life, to the service of the people of Meghalaya. And he was the first person to have contracted COVID-19, and he was the first patient of COVID-19 in that particular state of Meghalaya. And unfortunately, he as well as his entire family, we have witnessed in social media that they were accused, they were vilified for getting corona in the state of Meghalaya. And unfortunately, when he died, the gentleman did not get a decent farewell also, despite having given his entire life to the service of humanity. This is the gift which he had gotten at the end of his, even after he was no more. So this again shows an extreme form of value crisis in the society. Now, going ahead, this is instance number 5, dear friends. You can see Indian migrant workers being sprayed with disinfectants. And this is somewhere in your UP Bareilly border. and see how they were being treated as inanimate objects. The basic human dignity somewhere I feel is missing in such kind of instances, and that again is showing the value crisis in the present society. Another instance, we are aware of the rise in the cases of child abuse. Whether you talk about child sexual abuse and violence, it is on a rise, and that again shows a form of value crisis in the society. Instance number 7, rise in incidents of domestic violence. In fact, if you have witnessed also, we have heard about the number of domestic violence calls have increased during lockdown period like anything, which shows the domestic violence incidences, the cases of domestic violence have gone up quite high during this, especially during this pandemic phase. And lastly, violence against COVID warriors. This is again something which is unpardonable, I think, because coronavirus warriors were attacked in India in different places. When we talk about these COVID warriors, they are the frontline workers. They are the ones who have left behind their families, and they are serving us. They are working for us 24/7. And I think that they deserve respect. They deserve, our empathy. And that was lacking in many cases when I observed in this report that they were being attacked and violence was being, shown. And it was really very, very sad. And I think it is, again, another instance of value crisis. Now, coming to the important human values to be instilled to deal with the present crisis. Now, dear friends, dear viewers, there are quite a few values. I have, in fact, jotted 10 very important values, which according to me, plays a very, very important role to handle this present crisis or to cope up with the present crisis in a much better manner. So let us go and see what all are they. Number 1, according to me, is that the mother of all values, because all our relationships, whether our personal relationships, professional relationships, are based on mutual trust. And it is the fundamental condition for cooperation, collaboration, and, and what you call as a partnership. And in fact, in the present scenario, why I say that it is a very important value is because now for the children, they need to trust their elders, they need to trust their parents, because that will provide them the safety and security net that is required. So that's how I think trust plays a very important role in going ahead. Trusting our health professionals is again very, very important, because until and unless you have confidence in placing your bodies in their competent hands, then again it is going to be difficult, so trusting our health professionals is also very important. As far as our political leaders are concerned, trusting our political leaders is critical in changing behaviors, because our political leaders have advised us, have come up with recommendations, have come up with norms, to maintain social distancing, use a protective mask whenever we go out, stay at home. And if you do not trust your political leaders and their recommendations, then it will be very difficult. So that is where I feel that trusting our political leaders, trusting our health professionals, trusting our elders. In fact, this is how I feel that trust is one of the most important values which needs to be imbibed in the present scenario. The second is empathy. Now, coming to empathy, as you know, empathy is nothing but the ability to feel with another person. It is to stand on the another person's shoes and see the world through the other person's lenses. So at an individual level, I think we need to be empathetic towards our COVID warriors. The healthcare workers are practicing empathy, as we see, by simply being there to serve the public. Every morning, the healthcare workers, they go to the hospitals and they greet the patients with a warm hello. And they are the ones who are just next to the patients during these distressful times. So that is where I think that healthcare workers are also practicing empathy with the public, with the patients. And we as public also needs to, empathize or needs to be empathetic towards our COVID warriors. Now, as citizens, we all need to be empathetic towards the people affected by COVID-19. In fact, dear viewers, WHO, World Health Organization, very clearly mentions that we need to avoid usage of terminologies like COVID-19 cases. Quite often we use such terminologies, COVID-19 patients or COVID-19 cases. They say that it is actually going to lead towards more stigmatization and discrimination. So rather than using terminologies like cases and dehumanizing them in the process, it is better we use terminologies like people with COVID-19. That is the way we need to address, and it is better we address that way, because today they are suffering from COVID-19, or they have contracted the virus, but tomorrow once they're treated, they will be normal people running their lives, going back to their families. So that's why we need to be empathetic towards the people who are affected by COVID-19, our fellow citizens, the migrant workers, even for that matters, the people who had attended the congregation also, who were hiding out of fear and anxiety. We need to be, empathetic and try to understand, try to look at the world from their eyes. I think we will be more compassionate in the process. The third value, which is again interrelated, I have clubbed them together: compassion, kindness, and generosity. Now, I say karuna. Compassion is nothing but karuna in Hindi, which that's why I quite often say that karuna needs to replace corona during this time, and that can help in fighting against this particular menace. Now, we have seen examples of compassion and kindness, which are being displayed by various voluntary organizations, NGOs, young college students, many from my own university are, they are engaged in various kinds of voluntary work, pro-social behavior. Many of them have gone door to door, distributing ration to the elderly, to medical supplies to the people, who are in distress. COVID warriors, including policemen, who are going out of the way. The teachers, government employees, businessmen, we also have donated, our salaries in relief and welfare funds, whether you talk about PM Cares Fund, CM Relief Funds, Arogya Nidhi, these are acts of generosity. So I think that even the simplest acts of kindness, empathy, and compassion are felt so deeply in times of uncertainty. And that is where I think compassion, kindness, and generosity are very, very important values that needs to be practiced during this time. Manas, please tell me in case there are any questions. I'm just not keeping a track of that. Now going to the next, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you, Manas.
Now you can hear me? Yeah. So
now you're audible. Yeah.
Okay. There was one question from Ishani. She's asking, if human values are so intertwined with religion, then can someone practice these values if they don't have any religion?
Just now I mentioned, what's her name, you said?
Her name is Ishani.
Ishani.
Yeah.
Hi, Ishani. Thank you so much for your question, dear friend. In fact, as mentioned by Valina, ma'am, can human values exist without religion? So I said that human values are, important because, in fact, all religions gives us or teaches us certain values, that's how they are important in the process of learning the formation of the values. But at the same time, I also mentioned that spirituality and religiosity are, interchangeably used, and they are quite interrelated. That's where I say that those who are not practicing any particular religion, but practicing spirituality in the sense that they believe in a superpower, that's where I feel that, again, they also can gain a lot if they practice spirituality. I hope I have answered your question, Ishani.
Tarun, they also added that service to mankind could be another one. Service to mankind.
Yes. Yes, Tarun, you're absolutely right. I'm coming towards that, in my slides. So going towards gratitude. So showing gratitude gratitude is basically counting your blessings, saying thank you. Quite often we focus upon our deficiencies in life. What is it that we are lacking in our life? That's what makes us remorseful. That's what makes us depressed and sad. So it is good to shift our focus a bit to think of all those blessings that we are endowed with. So we need to learn to show gratitude in this particular scenario towards our frontline workers, our COVID warriors. We need to send letters of love and gratitude towards to our friends and relatives. In fact, as our Honorable Prime Minister of India also had said, that this is physical distancing. This is not emotional distancing. So here, nobody is stopping you to express gratitude. Nobody is asking you not to express your love and affection towards your near and dear ones. So this is how I think, it is going to help you in bringing about a sense of well-being. In fact, I quite often tell my students also to maintain a gratitude journal, to document all things that you are thankful for in your lives. Because when you are doing that's somewhat what I have always practiced, which I call as gratitude therapy. And I have done a couple of researches while I was teaching in Delhi University also. And later on, as of now as well, the psychological, we have seen that when somebody is practicing gratitude for a considerable period of time, we have seen that their sense of well-being has also gone up. So when the crisis starts to get to you, flip through the journal to remind yourself of all the good things that you have in your life. So basically, gratitude enhances mental health. It improves mood, coping behaviors, reduces physical symptoms, and improves overall life appraisal. So that's how I feel that practicing gratitude will be of great help. And what we tell ourselves, something which we call as self-talk is very, very important, positive thinking. Coming towards that, go to that, I request you, Manas, to kindly play the video which talks about how our thoughts, how our beliefs can actually make changes on the structure of the water molecule. It is an experiment by Masaru from Japan. Just see it. I'm sure you will enjoy it.
Looking. This next series of photographs are the work of Japanese researcher Mr. Masaru Emoto.
Is it playing or like?
So Dr. Dimpy, you can
Hello?
get back into the yeah.
Am I audible, Manas? Hello?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. I think the video has stopped, so I can go on?
Yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah, all right. So, dear friends, dear viewers, you have seen how the water molecules also took different shapes, based on the thoughts that we had projected. So that is how, if water molecules can, the shape of the water molecules can change. So just think, we human beings, we are made of 60 to 70% of water. So positive thinking, practicing gratitude, prayers, as someone also mentioned about spirituality, how that can change our lives. So now the next virtue is, or the next value is optimism. Now, research has shown that practicing gratitude increases our sense of optimism and hope, which may help us stay grounded. As they say, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So quite often, earlier we always used to say that there's no time to spend with family. 19, this lockdown period is giving us an opportunity to spend time with our near and dear ones, to connect with our family members. So we quite often in psychology, any kind of therapy, especially in CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, we make use of something which is called as cognitive intervention strategies, where we try to make and alter patterns of cognitions. Cognitions are your thoughts, your beliefs, and make them stress resistant. It is very important, because cognitive restructuring strategy is often used where you try to modify your thought process, modify your belief system in order to cope up better. And that's where positive thinking plays a very important role. And in fact, your immune system is positively affected when you practice optimism, when you practice positive thinking. Your immune system becomes very strong, and that's when you can fight back better with any kind of external stressor. Now, it is very important for all of us, in fact, to communicate to the victims, to the vulnerables, that this too shall pass. We need to show them that, yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. No need to get so disheartened in life. And this is a situation which is again a transient phase, and that better times are coming. That's how I think that this optimism again is a very important value that can be practiced. Going ahead, practicing patience is very important. Now, as I told a little while back, how the domestic violence cases has gone up, the child abuse cases has gone up. The main reason is because of lack of patience. Now, children, for last 90 days approximately, the children are full of energy. They're bundle of energy. They are all hold inside their houses. Now, obviously, that, as parents, you need to practice patience at home with your children, with your family members. And children, during this time, it's the best time to teach them values like forbearance, self-control, restraint, and tolerance. And that's how I feel that practicing patience is very, very important at this hour. Now, going ahead, the next one is endurance and resilience. As Manas also had said, in ValuEndow, we go for resilience building exercises also. So endurance and resilience, they play a very, very important role in coping up with stress. Endurance, as you all are aware, is the ability to endure a process or situation without giving in. And resilience is the ability to recover. Basically, what we say, that's bouncing back from any kind of difficult situations. Dear viewers, in lives, we cannot be really very sure what is there tomorrow. So any kind of problems, any kind of, event that happens in our lives, we need to be resilient. We need to develop this quality of endurance or resilience so that we can bounce back stronger in life. We don't have to be victim of circumstances. Rather, we need to fight back. That never say die attitude, as I say, as I also follow, that is nothing but practicing resilience. The next is forgiveness. That's again another 8th virtue. And forgiveness, as Mark Twain says, it is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heels that has crushed it. So when you forgive someone, you are not doing a favor to the person who had harmed you or who has hurt you. You have done yourself a favor. In fact, because forgiveness would give your mind, calmness, and also will gift you peace, which is very, very important. Set a prisoner free and to discover that the prisoner was you. So that's why I think that forgiveness is a very important value that we need to practice. And then the next one is love. So love is, again, I would say it's a very, very important value, just like I mentioned about trust. They form the basis of any kind of intimate relationships, the deep relationships that we share with a few people. And depth matters, in fact, more than breadth. And we need to try connecting with our family members during this COVID-19 lockdown period. We need to connect with them at a much deeper level because now we have time to spend with them. The people we see every day should get your priority. And that's why I think that love is a very important human value that needs to be practiced always, rather. And the last value, which I think is extremely important and which encompasses all the human values which make us truly human, is humanity. That is the quality of being humane or benevolent. Now, respect for the core value of humanity means sharing, receiving, and coexisting with the hearts and minds of everyone. We need to give respect and dignity to the people with COVID-19 rather than stigmatize them or discriminate them. In fact, I am again remembering or recalling an incident which happened sometime around March 23rd or 24th, when a Northeastern student from Manipur, she was spat on by a Delhi guy just because of her facial structure, and she was called as Corona. And she was spat gutka on her face. And just imagine, this is an extreme form of racism that the world has seen. And it is very, very sad that and not just during COVID-19 and otherwise also, the people from the Northeast, because of their Oriental, addressed as chinkies. And now in this present pandemic, they're using terms like Corona. And it really causes me a lot of pain because I belong, not just because I belong to this region, but otherwise also, I feel that we need to respect individuals. We need to develop that quality of being humane That is what will differentiate us, and these values are very, very important, I think, in leading a life of dignity and leading a life of respect. And that's where I think we need to practice humanity. And with humanity comes the terminology which I call as Vasudeva Kutumbakam. And that is, the entire world is a family, and we are interconnected. So it is very important that because we are interconnected, we are also accountable to each other. So that is where I feel that we need to practice humanity in the truest sense of the term and fight back this menace. Now, what is the way ahead? Now, the way ahead is value shift. I hope you all will agree with me. We need a value shift. That is a must. As Golden and Muga to 2020 rightly said, the world before coronavirus and after cannot be the same. And values, as we know, they act as a compass to follow the directions we have chosen. And if we want to have a chance to cross the danger zone, we need to initiate a value shift. Now, what is it? If we were too competitive, we were too much concerned about personal success, now this is the time to move towards care and responsibility. Move from confrontation, egocentrism, and conflict. Let us shift towards empathy and partnership, that is collaboration. If we were too self-centered and too much concerned about making profits and gains, this is the time. Let us move towards what I call as quality of trying to build a quality of life, work on improving our quality of life. So what is required is the overall shift that is needed to convert a path from materialistic towards the spiritual values. I hope I answer your query, Ishani, sorry. So that's where it is very important that we need to make a value shift from them towards spirituality. And we need to discourage extrinsic values and encourage intrinsic values in people's lives and society. And that is what I call as value-based perspective, which is very, very important. Now, coming to the intervention, that's where I think I'll be addressing to Jaideep's question. Now, how can we actually, intervene, and how can value be imbibed by the people or instilled in the people? Now, first is very, very important is the individual level intervention, and then I will go to the institutional level intervention. When I talk about individual level intervention, I would focus upon being introspective and be self-aware. That is where I want you all to sit down and define your own personal core values. As I told you in the initial few slides, that many a times we ourselves are not really very aware about the values that we possess. Your values must be in line with who you are. You need to strengthen your values, which already exist within, by practicing cognitive restructuring. So here I would like to mention, okay, you need to ask yourself questions like, who am I really? These are the questions, existential questions, which will help you understand and be self-aware, which will, again, in turn help you in knowing your core set of values. This is completely a soul exercise, and that is very, very important. And I want to mention about Rokich Value Survey here. Milton Rokich is a social psychologist. He came up with a classification system of values, which is widely used. And the system consists of two sets of values, 18 individual value items in each. Now, he has divided values into two sets. One he calls as terminal values, and another one he calls as instrumental values. Now, when I talk about terminal values refer to desirable end states of existence. That means these are the goals that the person would like to achieve during his or her lifetime. So these values vary among different groups of people in different cultures. So I would like to mention the 18 terminal values. Now, dear viewers, if you have a paper and a pencil right next to you, it is good. Otherwise, just maybe you can just type it down in your mobile phones. The terminal values which you consider as important to you, you need to prioritize them. First 5 terminal values: true friendship, mature love, self-respect, happiness. 5th is inner harmony. 6th is equality, then freedom, pleasure, social recognition, wisdom, salvation, family security, national security, a sense of accomplishment, a world of beauty, a world at peace, a comfortable life, an exciting life. So maybe I'll give you just 2-3 minutes so you can just go through this list, and maybe you can just maybe make prioritize your values, terminal values, which are important in your life, the first 5. I would not go on asking you individually, but that is going to be your soul searching exercise. Probably you will be able to know your core at the end of my presentation, your own core terminal values. Well, the next set of values are the instrumental values. Now, when I talk about instrumental values, they refer to the preferable modes of behavior. These are preferable modes of behavior or means of achieving the terminal values. As the term suggests, instrumental values. The instruments, they help you in achieving the terminal values. Then again, Rokich has mentioned 18 instrumental values. Here too, you need to prioritize them and place them in order. That's where you will understand what are your core terminal values and what are your core instrumental values. They are cheerfulness, ambition, love, cleanliness, self-control, capability, courage, politeness, honesty, imagination, independence, intellect, broad-minded, logic, obedience, helpfulness, responsibility, and forgiveness. So basically, the task for the participants in the survey was to arrange the 18 terminal values followed by 18 instrumental values into an order of importance to you. And it will, let me tell you, it is very subjective. It will vary what is important for me. Terminal values, that list will be very different from my friend and probably from my mother, father, husband. So every individual has their own terminal values, and they will have their own individual unique instrumental values. So that is a task which I think we all need to ponder, and that will help us in being more self-aware of our own values, and accordingly we can align our actions to match us with the values. Now, coming to the institutional interventions, now educators and parents must instill right set of values in our younger generation. As I mentioned, that value-based education or moral education is the need of the hour. In fact, this is a suitable opportunity to exemplify to our children that tools beyond academics are so very vital to leading a fulfilling life. And in fact, here, I would also like to say organizing this kind of webinars on such important topics is another way out. It is also an intervention strategy to make people aware of the human values, which quite often we just, tend to ignore or maybe overlook. Now, what are the roles of parents? So parents need to educate the young hearts and minds by being good role models and by practicing values, because children, they observe you more. They try to model your behavior, So it is very important to educate your young hearts and minds by being good role models. It's very important. Children at home can be encouraged during COVID, during this particular lockdown period. You can encourage your children to engage or to participate in household chores or learn a new skill to understand the values like teamwork, involvement, and collaboration. It's very important. You can assign them tasks that can also impart a sense of independence, responsibility, and accomplishment, because that will again, help them in the long run. Social distance must not turn into social isolation. They must be encouraged to be expressive and stay connected with friends and teachers at the virtual space, because many a times, if the children also heightened amount of stress. So it is the duty and responsibility of the parents to help them stay connected with their friends and with their teachers or mentors. You'll be happy, dear viewers, to hear that Delhi government had started happiness classes, online happiness classes sometime in the month of March, initial phase of the lockdown only, for which would help in forming harmonious relationships with an aim to provide mindfulness and making our children emotionally stronger, basically more resilient. So coming towards the end, dear friends, at some point, this pandemic will be over. We all know that. And our lives will get back to normal. But our families, friends, co-workers, and patients of vulnerable ones will remember how we responded to them, how we treated one another. This is the time, dear viewers, for us to build a legacy of right human values, which will in turn help in the creation and formation of a much humane society for our next generation. We are, in fact, yet not aware about what the new normal will look like. The pandemic has shaken the very, very foundation of the globalized world. We have been going on donating, and doing charity work, and giving donations in various religious places, temples. I would like to address in Hindi, though my Hindi is not really very good, but still, आप जिन धर्म स्थलों पर चंदा देते रहे हैं, आज उन सबके दरवाजे विपत्ति के समय में बंद है। मानो ईश्वर खुद बाहर निकल कर कह रहे हो कि मैं हर एक व्यक्ति के अंदर बसता हूँ। सेवा करनी हो तो, चैरिटी करनी हो, और if you want to show compassion to fellow beings, you need to do service. You need to engage in service. That's when I will be truly happy. Thus, values are at the core of humanity and our capacity to respond and recover from the current crisis. I would like to end with what Albert Einstein had to say: try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. And that is how our next generation will remember us for our deeds, for the values that we actually, carried on and we left as legacy behind. That is where I think human values play a very, very important role. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with me, and taking part so very actively. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Manas.
We'll move into the Q&A session and would like to cover any other messages that we have received. Tarun Dey says that's what Swami Vivekananda said in conclusion, that the service to mankind. He also earlier said that service to mankind is one such important aspect that we must be focusing, reorienting ourselves. Dr. Pragya says value shift, very relevant concept.
Thank you so much, Pragya ma'am. Hope you're doing well.
Very happy that Pragya has been there throughout as a kind of a supporting pillar all across.
I'm really very happy. Yeah.
We have a question from
Absolutely.
Tarun R says, "Good afternoon, ma'am. Showing gratitude elevates your mental vibration. Is that true?" He says,
so here, when you talk about Tarun
R.
mental vibration, yeah. Hi, Tarunji. In fact, when we talk about gratitude or expressing gratitude towards our near and dear ones, or for that matter, thanking the Almighty for whatever we have, definitely it has an impact on our, as I told you initially only, that, our cognitions, our beliefs, cognitions or the beliefs, they're the same thing, our emotions and our behavior, they are all interconnected, So that is where I feel that if you are showing gratitude, if you are expressing gratitude, automatically it will have an impact on the emotions. You will feel better. So that is how I think. In fact, all the researchers that I have read or gone through, and in fact, I also had engaged myself in gratitude therapy. Definitely, it has a direct relationship with the mental well-being of an individual. That's what I think. That's what I think you meant when you talked about mental vibrations.
We have another point by Aditya P. She says, "Good afternoon, ma'am. As you said, we have to trust our political leaders. But don't you think trusting political leader is becoming the biggest issue?" So she has a question out there. Do we trust our political leaders?
As far as the political leaders are concerned, I mean, I understand that you might be, there are various these political leaders who have come up with do's and don'ts for us common public during this crisis situation. And somewhere I think that all political leaders are saying, especially when I'm talking about political leaders and trusting political leaders, if you see the slide also, there I specifically mentioned about three things. That is, in the present scenario, as I was talking about COVID-19, maintaining social distancing, following the norms, and basically usage of masks, and maintaining the hygiene, the physical hygiene that we need to manage. And that's very important here, I feel. And whatever their recommendations are in this present context, I'm saying, I think we need to value that. We need to trust them on that. And that is when we will take it seriously, because many people who do not believe in a particular political ideology, if you say, they're not trusting the leaders. And as a result of which, many of them we are seeing they're openly flouting the lockdown rules. Where is it originating from? It is because of the lack of trust somewhere. So that's how I think somewhere or the other, in the present crisis situation, they all are working hard for us. And I think we need to trust our political leadership. Yes.
Dr. or Mr. Habibur Rahman saying, great, I completely agree with the attribute, empathy and compassion during COVID-19 to extend services to the affected and the underprivileged as well. He also says, many thanks to Dr. Dimpy for authentic, time-fit and contextual discussion on human value during COVID-19 pandemic. Truly, it's a holistic approach comprises presently embedded in human value that Dr. Dimpy already on delivery. My sincere regards to the organizer to let me be a part of the audience. Good wishes. So many a
thank you so much, Professor Rahman, from all the way from Bangladesh. You had sat through the session. I'm really very happy and glad that you have been a part of it. And thanks to my colleagues, Ma'am Shruti Shori. I can see then I can see Dr. Sakti Prabha's comment also on the session, chat section. And all the viewers, in fact, thank you so much for your positive feedback. It means a lot. And I'm very happy that I could actually really give you contextual examples. And I'm sure that many of you could relate to what I said today. Thank you so much, Padam Raj Joshi sir from Nepal. Thank you so much for being a part of the session. Yeah.
Great. Excellent.
I think Manas.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, dear viewers, dear participants in this webinar. I'm so happy that you have joined and hopefully this has helped you. And please join our future programs as well. In case of, we have also offers like, the ValuEndow Aapke Saath, there is an offer of counseling. In case of any requirement, please do call us, register with us for counseling session. And also, please join our future programs, future webinars, and do share the programs in social media. Thank you so much wholeheartedly. Thank you, Dr. Dimpy, and from our team in ValuEndow. It had been long due webinar from your side, and we are so happy that you joined us in this program, and we'll have many other webinars with you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dimpy.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Manas. Thanks a lot, viewers. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Take care.